Future Female Forward has started a very important conversation, but we really have miles to go as far as gender parity at workplaces is concerned. The World Economic Forum tracks gender parity year on year, and their most recent report said that globally 62.9% of women are participating in the global workforce. When it comes to starting businesses, yes, there is an uptick in the number of women starting their own businesses, becoming entrepreneurs, but there is minimal access to finance as well. Then you have the question of digital divide in rural India, which needs to be bridged as well. All of those conversations, very important, and our CHROs today will give us a sense of what they're doing to bridge the gender gap, make sure that women have a stronger representation and a platform to grow right from the shop floor to the boardroom as well. Archana, if I can start with you, give us a sense of the practices that you have at HSBC to, one, allow women to grow, allow them to explore different avenues, different aspects of the business, because today's young men and women coming out of colleges, they like disruption, they like constant change. How do you keep them motivated? How do you try to retain your women workforce as well?
Thanks. At HSBC, we believe we want everybody to bring their authentic self at work, be it man or woman. So we just want the best self to come in. And for us, it starts from the tone from the top. So every senior manager or everybody looks at diversity with the same lens. Besides that, for me, it is the policies that you put together, because if it is not an inclusive environment that you create and call out bad behaviors, you're not going to have a situation where you create a culture and an environment where everybody will thrive. We also believe in measuring what we treasure. So on a monthly basis with my ExCo, we measure the numbers of how our diversity ratios are moving to ensure that, if there is a gap or something that is not going as we planned, we are able to look at it. To be able to attract different workforces and the new generation. Like you said, yes, the asks are very different. We've tried to target, like many other organizations, we've come up with a returnship program. And one of the things that we see in the returnship program is, if we were bringing them into full-time jobs, people didn't want to do the job because they were not sure whether they were ready for it. Line managers were not comfortable. So we bring them as interns. We train them to say, come experience what it is to come back to work after 10 years. And if there is a match in what you want to do and what we have, we place people. We've been able to place 60% of the women we brought in as interns into the organization. And of course, the whole focus on data integration. We now encourage people to do courses and give them honorarium so that they self-develop themselves and keep up with the workforce. So lots of initiatives to keep the workforce. But one most important thing is that our policies ensure that whether it is your own self-development, so training programs for women who want to come back, or training programs for women who are within the organization, how do we provide them a whole landscape where they are able to excel? And in our Ascent program, we've seen 80% of the women who have gone through the program actually have had a promotion or job expansion. So we believe we provide right from the time when we hire you to we train you, as well as at every life stage of your life. We have very strong maternity policies too. So we'll talk about that maybe in the course of the conversation.
Right. Thanks for giving us a lot to think about, Archana. I'd like to get in Subbaraman at this stage. Subbaraman, when we speak about HCL Tech, there's a very interesting program that HCL Tech has, and it's a mentorship program for young women who want to grow in the organization. They need a mentor, and that mentor will actually help them talk about what they may want to do in the organization, if they want to explore a different field, or maybe just have a conversation about growing up the corporate ladder as well. How important is that conversation and having such a program for young women aspiring to lead the organization someday?
Sure, thank you. So this program that we have is done through various channels. There are a couple of platforms that have come in place. There's something called Ascent that we have within the organization, where we let women employees participate and aspire towards roles that they want to get to. We have a program which is called Stepping Stones, which allows them to choose a career path, right? And to that, assign mentors. So there's a platform called Mentor Me, which allows women colleagues to go choose who they want to have as their mentors. The mentors are trained, they're kind of oriented, saying how you got to work with your prosthesis in terms of how their career should get shaped to, how their next skills or the next technological abilities should be enhanced and so on. So that's a very, very important element for us, because we know that within the organization, when we want to solve complex problems, you need diverse workforce to be able to look at the problem from every possible aspect, and hence these three elements that we have really come in very, very handy for the company.
All right. Let me get in Ravi, Kyran also at this point. Ravi, if we speak about Bajaj Auto, a legacy automotive company, one of the biggest sellers of scooters once upon a time, and the wheel has come a full circle for Hamara Bajaj, and now you've got the Chetak EVs. And recently when we visited the production line in Pune, we saw women manning several sections of the shop floor as well. What are the kind of changes that Bajaj Auto has done over the years to accommodate more women, some of the challenges that you saw, and what is the kind of representation you have for women in the workforce across the board?
This is actually a very interesting journey that we have been through. I would say last 10 years ago, if you were to ask, we had less than a couple of % of women workforce. Today we are getting closer to 15%. Especially if we were to look at Chetak, which is our new organization, Chetak Technologies, we currently have about 30% of our workforce as women. We have a little bit complexity out there, given that we are a legacy organization. We are transforming ourselves in terms of our workforce diversity. Many things that we have to do. We have to start with, typically in our TPM way, we look at what is the issue, what is the root cause analysis that we have to do, what are the bottlenecks, and we'll have to go step by step to kind of eliminate every one of them. Everything from hiring to assimilation to development, to giving them growth opportunities, to culture. In every step of the way we'll have to work, and we have actually transformed the way we have actually looked at it. But the core of it, I would say, is the philosophy with which we are operating, right? One, we do not want to be paternalistic. It's very easy to swing the pendulum and try to be paternalistic, right? We want to be supportive, but not paternalistic, right? And honestly, we go back to what do women want at some level, right, in terms of working environment. They want to feel that it's home, it is where they want to be. And so what do we need to do to ensure that that kind of a culture is created in an organization? It was not easy, definitely. In many cases, we had to ask the question ourselves saying, is this the kind of environment that we want our daughters and our wives to come and work in, right? That kind of a difficult conversation had to happen with multiple places. All of that has led to where we are today. To us, it is a journey. Like with anything else in TPM, there is no end goal. We don't have an end goal. We don't have a 25%, 30%. We just don't have any goal. For us, it's a continuous improvement.
Balachandar, if I could ask you about the Ola Group, and I'll ask you about Ola Electric first. We've spoken about Bajaj Auto, a legacy automotive player. A startup like Ola Electric, do you think it was easier to have that change on the shop floor, have a larger number of women from the word go, from the beginning?
Let me preface it a little bit. Yeah, I think as Ola, we are a disruptor, startup, as you said. And when you're a startup and a disruptor, you think very differently. And when you think very differently, you don't have any constraints ahead of you. We want to solve for everything that we attempt to, right? Whether it's the product, the design, or the engineering, or the way we sell. And then the question came to HR, what is it that you're going to impact, right? And we didn't want to do these incremental percentages from 20% to 25% and fight with that and struggle with that. I've been on the other side with multinationals, so I know what the struggle is all about. So this is such a refreshing change when you start with a clean slate. You take a pledge that I will build 100% women shop floor. Right? And Anisha, you all met her today. She was here on stage. We have 1,600 Anishas at work who build your scooter. Yeah. And I think it's more a strategic call, a decision, and then you solve for every constraint. Else you are incrementally solving for things, and I don't think that works for me. Yeah. You have to take a pledge and you have to go after it. And that's the Ola story.
All right, so we'll ask you more in a bit about the Ola story, about Ola cabs, pink cabs as well. Nitin, if I could bring you in at this point. If we were to ask you about Deloitte's example, there must be so many partners, so many companies consulting you. What is the advice that you're giving them about increasing the representation of women, the kind of targets that they need to work with, and why is it important to act on this and act now?
So thanks Parikshit, and happy to be here. So a couple of things. Look, if we kind of zoom out and look at the evolution of D&I in corporate India, I would say it's really gathered steam in the last decade or so. And there are maybe two lenses to policy. One is what regulators have pushed, and you could say it's a carrot or a stick, whichever way you look at it, but then equally what companies themselves have embarked on. From the regulatory perspective, I think a couple of big milestones. The first was obviously the Companies Act in 2013, which mandated female representation on the board. And that's up to, I believe, nearly 70% today for some of the largest companies in India. So big take in terms of compliance. The second was acts like the Paternity Act 2017, doubled the maternity leave available, mandated creche facilities, childcare facilities at the workplace. And the third more recently has been ESG, and the more recent mandates to mandatorily disclose D&I initiatives and policies. So I'd like to believe that that will create a sense of transparency as well as accountability for the corporate world. I think we've had some fantastic examples from my fellow panelists here as well as the previous panel. But the general direction of travel from a policy perspective has been investing in, of course, women-friendly benefits. So that could be menstrual leaves, it could be the ergonomic design of the workplace, it could be other child-friendly benefits. The second really has been around sort of training and development, and I would say that extends not only to the women themselves, but also to the wider organization, right? How do you tackle 4 issues around unconscious bias, for example, in your hiring, in your promotion, etc. But to me, the biggest revolution has been, the companies which have traversed the path successfully. This started out 10 years ago as a very HR-led exercise, and it was a bunch of sporadic programs. And I think in the leading companies today, it's moved from an HR-led to a board and CXO, CEO-led, right? So that's been the shift. And HR still plays a role, but HR plays more of a catalyst and a facilitator.
Radhakrishna at Ashok Leyland, again, a very old automotive company in India. Give us a sense of what's Ashok Leyland's mantra when it comes to gender parity at the workplace. You also have an all-women production line at Hosur. Tell us about that.
Yeah, thanks, Parikshit. First of all, if you see, Ashok Leyland, we come from a typical as male as it could be scenario, right? I mean, we manufacture and sell trucks. So people who have been making trucks and those people who are driving trucks are, as male as it could be. But if you look at the mobility industry or the mobility space is in for a very exciting rate of change in the near future. So be it, telematics, alternate fuels, we realize that if we don't bring in an inclusive work environment, then we will really lose out on how agile we could be as a company. So what we did was, we said, okay, I mean, we are a very large company. We said, we won't go in for a percentage change, like as if, we will get 5% or 10%. But we said, let us work across the spectrum of our operations. So we started off with the all-women engine shop in Hosur. And again, engine being the heart of the vehicle. So we said, that's where we should start. So today we have a 80-strong all-women engine line, which is manned completely by women, be it the planning, the supply, the maintenance, everything is done by women. Then what we did was, we went to the other end of the spectrum. We have driver training institutes. So we had a batch of 180 women who were trained as heavy vehicle drivers.
Heavy duty truck drivers.
Heavy duty truck drivers. You know, the interesting part is that if you talk to some of them, it is not just a way of livelihood. You know, some of the women said, we want to drive in the army. We want to drive, you know, in the police. We want to drive for the CRPF. So that's when we realized, you know, what we are doing is about, you know, not just a livelihood, but like, you know, the Air Force officers here were saying that it's a way of life, and that's the way they want to, you know, give back to the society. So we are very happy with, you know, what we've done across the spectrum. And also, you know, we just had a dealers conference yesterday in Bangalore. I was also very surprised to see amongst our dealers, there were a lot of, you know, second generation women who've taken up dealerships. So it's very, you know, I would say heartwarming to see the change right from manufacturing to all the way driving trucks.
Helps beat sensitivity fast.